Hi, I'm Tim Stein and welcome to this video where I talk about simple warm-up exercises in this series of videos that we're making about the basics of playing the piano. Why do we do warm-up exercises? Well, it's a bit like going to the gym. You don't start training until you've done your basic warm-ups. So you're playing an instrument, doesn't matter what instrument you're playing, you want to be obviously as relaxed as possible to avoid injury. So you want to make sure that you're sitting comfortably to start with and you're not tense and your shoulders are down and open. And a very simple basic warm-up exercise that I'd give any student just to free up the arms and the shoulders is what I call footsteps in the snow. And here I just place my left hand over 2 black keys at the bottom and my right hand over 3 black keys. Now I'm not so worried about making sure that an individual finger is on an individual note. So you could actually play, as we've done previously, with your hands, your fingers rather, close together. And you're just walking very slowly up the keyboard, just feeling the weight of the key under your fingers as you push them down. Left over right. And then you can come back. Now, I didn't actually do what I wanted to do, which was to exaggerate the movements and to use my arms and shoulders. So you could actually make small semicircles as you go up the piano. And then similarly, go down, making those exaggerated movements. And another little useful exercise is what I call run and jump. And again, it's very simple. If you place your right hand fingers over middle C, D, and E, I call this run and jump. And all you do is you play those 3 notes together, making sure that your hand is in a good position and that your forearm and your wrist, there's no broken link between the two. You imagine that you're holding a small ball and then you're just going to play the 3 notes together. And then you're going to hop up to the next C, D, E, and the next one. And then you do the same thing in the left hand, but this time with your thumb on middle C, B, and A, and you play them together. And you want to exaggerate the movement. So again, just think of a small semicircle as you're jumping from one position to the next, just freeing up the arm and the shoulder. And so on, and then you can go back. It's very important to make sure that your hand and your fingers are in position before you play. Then you can take that little exercise a step further and literally turn it into a run and jump. Run and jump. And then you use the last note as a springboard to the next position. And so on, and then in the left hand you do exactly the same thing. C, B, A. Another useful exercise, and certainly for scale playing, before you play your scales normally, is a simple rotational exercise. So if you take a scale, for example, I'm going to play C because it's the easiest one to remember because it's just a sequence of white notes. And if you place your right hand on middle C, 5 notes, C position, and your left hand, I would do actually one hand first before you do 2 hands together. And what you're going to do is you're going to play up the scale and you're just going to make small rotational movements. So if you watch me, I'll show you exactly what I want you to do. So you can see, hopefully, that I'm making a small circular movement in an anti-clockwise direction. Now, what you're really doing here is you're freeing up the wrist and the arm. Now, you don't want to do that when you're playing your scales normally, but just as a simple warm-up exercise, it's actually really useful. And you could practice all your scales in that fashion. And then you do exactly the same thing in the left hand. The only difference in the left hand is that you're moving in a clockwise direction. So if I show you, for example, hopefully you can see those movements. And then when you can do one hand on its own, you could then combine the two. And then the next thing I would suggest doing is a very simple stretching exercise. And what I do here is taking my right hand, for example, place my right thumb on middle C and my fifth finger on the A above. So you've got 6 notes in total, and I just call these simple sixths. And all you're going to do is you're just going to crawl up the piano as far as you want to, remembering to make that small rotational movement. And the reason that we're doing that is because we want to just develop flexibility in hands and fingers. So for example, and you can keep going up, and then you could do the same in the left hand. Now, it doesn't really matter what note you start on, so long as you're playing 6 notes apart. And once you can feel comfortable, once you feel comfortable playing 6 notes apart, you can then extend it to 7 notes, 8 notes, and so on. But the most important thing is that when you're doing any stretching, don't overstretch. If you feel pain or discomfort of any kind, just stop and let your arms flop down by their sides. Now, another thing that I forgot to mention at the beginning, which is even before you do any playing, I would combine, as I would if I was going to the gym, for example, some simple neck rolls and some shoulder rolls, just to create extra movement and freedom of movement when you're playing, even before you play. I hope that was useful. And remember that when you start out, even before you're practicing your pieces, do your warm-ups at the very beginning. But also remember, as you should do if you go to the gym, to warm down at the end. I hope you enjoyed that video and that you tune into my next one where I talk about hand and finger independence.